and welcome back to Alpha Tauri. And first and foremost, sorry, you may have noticed the upload schedule was a little bit different this week. That's because of an error, kind of on my part, kind of just my own technology screwing me over, really, more than anything. Essentially, the root input for my filtering software reverted to this microphone in here rather than this one, and the audio quality for the Mexican Grand Prix was appalling. Didn't affect the first two. I think there was an update to the software between recording USA and Mexico, so it only affected the Mexico Grand Prix, and I noticed it just before starting qualifying for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Effectively, I just noticed that my microphone was muted and it was still picking up sound, which obviously didn't make any sense. So thankfully I've caught it in time. And also there's no real news actually following the Mexican Grand Prix, or really following the American Grand Prix up to now. Money-wise, we're okay, I think, unless you need to take obviously a whole wave of car parts, mechanical-wise. Alex is using, for this Grand Prix, not for the Mexican Grand Prix, but Alex is using a new chassis and a new underfloor, just getting that little bit of car part knowledge in before Sonoda can have one as well. As for the Mexican Grand Prix itself, honestly, you didn't really miss much. It tends to be a carnage race. It was like all the other carnage races this week, frankly. A bit dull. The top 8 were the top 8. Zhou Guan Yu came from 19th to finish 9th somehow. That was the only weird thing about that race. Lando, no, not Lando, I think it was an Alpine, was 10th. So we finished 11th and 12th. It was one of those races where we just needed someone in the top 10 to have a mare, and we could have nabbed a point, but they didn't, so we didn't. It was irritatingly straightforward in the end, again. But hopefully all this kind of blandness is building up to an absolute mayhem race. And it is a Sao Paulo sprint weekend, so another 33% more chance of madness. Also, Albon has a penalty, and I don't know why. I didn't get interrupted for an incident, and he's not taking any car parts, so it must be for an incident. And I genuinely don't know why. Now, admittedly, the Mexican Grand Prix issue was just a sound issue, so I could probably just re-record over the top of it and just talk over the top of it. But frankly, I just don't have the time. And like I say, it wasn't exactly an exciting race to begin with. And I can't use the original audio because it's the audio that's damaged, so, or suboptimal. If I was just muted throughout, I could still use the original audio because it would just be the game sounds, but unfortunately, I am talking, and that talking is terrible quality. But anyway, we'll just let these guys do their flying laps. 2, of course, to kick things off with. That's not splendid from Alex. Okay, well, they're terrible for some reason. Oh, and it started raining. I forgot it was a wet qualifying. I should have done that. I should have done that on manual. Well, it is a sprint weekend, so, you know, every chance. It's concerning that's where our pace is, though. Although I suppose all things considered, only 2/10 slower than Norris and Gasly. Ocon's and Zhou Guan Yu are sort of the anomalies in that respect, being 2/10 faster again than their teammates. Huh. No one's actually come out again, which is obviously the correct thing, but they normally do. There's not been a patch as far as I'm aware. By the way, I absolutely knew that was going to happen because I decided to put in the incentive for have both people in Q2. So I figured that was about to happen just because whenever you do that, the game decides to screw you over immediately. Honestly, just get bankers in on intermediates and get that more for the sake of getting morale up. Confidence, that's the term. I think he only did one lap, but never mind. Because it will be dry at the end. I mean, that is fantastically consistently wet. I mean, Yuki's lap was terrible, even considering it was on intermediates. Leclerc's caused a collision somewhere in all that. I didn't get a highlight for the collision. I just got the penalty warning for the collision about Leclerc's whatever he's done there. He's 14th already, so I think he's taken himself out. But Tsunoda's flying lap comes at the very, very end of qualifying here. There might be traffic negotiated in the form of this Williams, which hopefully will move out of the way and be well clear by the time we get to the apex. Slow down, slow down, slow down, Williams. Probably just all right. I hate it when they do that. Like, they move out of the way sufficiently enough. They just don't slow down. I've mentioned this before. That's how you solve the problem. They need to just basically just go half the speed they're still going at in qualifying. In the race, that's kind of speed's okay, really, because obviously I understand that they've got to get back up to speed again for their own race. But in qualifying, when they've got nothing to commit to on an out or an in lap, just slow right down. Just slow right down if you're on a straight. But this should be a reasonably good lap. Obviously, I have no idea how fast it is because why would you ever be given deltas? But sneaks 10th, probably largely because of Leclerc's incident. Verstappen was barely safe, it's worth pointing out. Hamilton's also early in Q2. So Ocon, Zhou Guan Yu, Norris and Sonoda, the interlopers for Q3. I say interlopers, there's always 2 because there's only 4 good teams, but at least we get the Q3 incentive anyway. We're back to wets. Sure, perfectly dry at the end of the Q2, immediately drenched at the beginning of Q3. I mean, get a banker in, I guess. Get a banker in for confidence levels more than anything. Don't even bother doing it on manual. Verstappen's decided to do another wet lap. Alonso? Does he come out on softs there? No, he's come out on intermediates. We're going to have a stupid qualifying position, aren't we? Some of these might be able to get back in time. Snowden might get a really good spot in this overcast Sao Paulo. I don't know if he's just about to be overtaken by a Ferrari or if the Ferrari is sort of staying behind or not. I think it's Carlos Sainz is on a flying lap behind. It has to be Carlos Sainz because obviously Leclerc's not here. But I think Carlos Sainz was on a flying lap just as Snowden was on his out lap. But Alonso, Zhou, New Perez and Verstappen are not doing a time on softs. Everyone else is on an in-lap now, so Lance Stroll could be a problem. But realistically, Tsunoda shouldn't be anything worse than... I was going to say 6th, but Ocon's time's not good either. Lance Stroll's time's not fantastic. Like, Russell Sainz and Norris might be, like, legitimately their proper times. Like, fully dry conditions on dry tyres. But it feels like Stroll and Ocon have had an issue in some way, shape or form. But he's not actually even caught Stroll in the end. Might even get a smidge of a slipstream before he dives into the pits, depending on how long that is. Ooh, I almost feel like Tsunoda had a little bit of hesitation backing off the throttle there. But no, he goes third. He goes third ahead of Norris. So Tsunoda starts 2 from the front, effectively, and Albon starts 2 from the back. Because, of course, the sprint's going to be a fascinating experiment into confidence levels. I mean, when you factor in the people that actually did times on dries, that pole was actually legitimately between George Russell and Lance Stroll. Fernando was going faster than Lance, but he never did time on dry tyres. Well, obviously, Max would have been faster if he'd done a time on dry tyres, but Lance and George were the only times to do times on dry tyres in Q3 and put in 107.6s, 7s in qualifying, other qualifying sessions. Everyone else is in the 108s that did a dry time. Even Ocon was a good shout for third there. Crazy. Anyway, we've got another practice session to deal with here, so I will see you for the sprint. Right then, considering the changeable conditions in practice, that's the best we could do. Still, enough to get him into very high, just. We'll take it. See, in the first practice, I was debating whether it was going to be soft or medium as a sprint. Just wet is the answer. Oh god, that could be actually wet at the end. Interesting, actually, we do have a marker point for once. There's no vertical scale, but the game does tell you how wet it is at the start. And it says 3.75. So if that's 3.75 at the start, it's going to dry up a little bit, still be intermediate. But that definitely goes way higher than it does at the start. So that's definitely wet at the end. Now, typically, as soon as you see the heavy rain symbol, it is blue wet. So very wet, as they call it in the game. But that's interesting, because we need to anticipate that going to wet around lap 18, which is enough. I mean, we can definitely do it on 5 push. But just so it's in the banks. I actually have no idea which tyres got handed back. I did use hards in practice 3 just to make sure, practice 2 I suppose it is, just to make sure they gave back a hard rather than 3 sets of softs. But I totally forgot Alex had a penalty. I still don't know what for. It's not going to affect this, of course. But anyway, a wet and very wet sprint.
24 laps around Sao Paulo in today's sprint. And it's lights out and away we go.
You know what I just realised about those introductions for the sprints that aren't sprints in real life? Although I think Sao Paulo might be a sprint in real life, actually. I can't remember. But I wonder if they just record them all on the off chance, because they have to obviously start preparing the sound lines before they announce which races are sprints for the new season. I wonder if they just do voice lines for all of them, just in case. And it's not actually just a stitching together. I mean, so far so steady from everyone. No one's really making a move as far as I can tell. Hamilton 14, Leclerc 15. Although I think actually, no, of course, the penalty doesn't apply for the sprint, does it? So I was about to say Albon has got Ricciardo, but he hasn't. So Tsunoda on for some very good points here, in theory. And of course, because it's going to be raining all the time, everyone's got through the first lap fine, I'll come back. But because it's going to be raining the entire time here, very good chance that we'll be able to push a lot further because the fuel recovery will be so much better, especially in this very, very wet bit at the end. Now, tyres still getting very warm, so there might be a case of actually still not going full 5 push just because of that. But Albon seems to be faster than Magnussen, hunting him down. Yeah, they seem to be getting very hot very quickly. The track's still very warm despite it being this wet. And of course, there'll never be DRS. You normally activate after lap 1 in a sprint, but there'll never be DRS. Alex going on the outside of Magnussen there. This is a curious move. Apparently that actually counted as an overtake attempt. Now, I would normally obviously come off pushing tyres once they alter this temperature, but the AI will be doing exactly the same up to this point. So Stroll actually seems to be having a little bit of problem keeping in pace. And in fact, Magnussen seems to be faster than Hulkenberg. Now, these actually need to obviously make sure they get to 18, so we've not even paid attention to Tsunoda. He was in third, of course. I think Albon's just done the fastest. No, it's Ricciardo that's done the fastest lap. Ricciardo got Magnussen at some point, and I never saw it. Ocon's had a spin, so we'll watch that. Running relatively high up, I think. Ooh, I mean, I think that's Alonso with unrealistic avoiding action there, but still, I'm glad there wasn't an accident there. In fact, did Alonso win this race last year? Tsunoda is now being hounded by Stroll and has been left behind by Russell. Just because we're trying to get these tyre temperatures down, it seems to be impossible. I mean, basically nothing's happening in this race. Stroll's still behind Tsunoda, and Albon has cleared Hulkenberg at last, but I think that's as far as he's going to get, and he's going to get a 3-place penalty for the race. Gasly's pitted now onto wets, which feels like a bold decision. We'll keep an eye on his gap to Ocon. Stroll's come in. Zhou Guan Yu's come in. Well, it is a very sharp uptick, actually. Is this going to be a case of... I mean, they are well enough apart, aren't they? My two drivers, yeah. And they're 10 seconds, 11 seconds apart. Is this going to be one of those cases where... Although, to be fair, wet tyres... That gap's actually come down. I was going to say, it's going to be one of those cases where it's going to be wet by the time they get back to the pits again anyway. Yeah, Gasly's not losing time to Ocon here, who admittedly is stuck on a Alfa Romeo, which is slower. But Stroll's had a pit stop issue. Why didn't Tsunoda come in? Oh, because Tsunoda was ahead of Stroll. So Tsunoda didn't have time to react anyway. Someone's just come off regardless, but it's not a huge issue. They've come back on again. It's the Haas, I believe, but Magnussen. All right, so Yuki, in you come on a fast forward pit stop, 1.944. That'll do us nicely. Yeah, it was definitely a 1 lap later situation. Ricciardo still hasn't come in, incidentally. Neither Sauber has come in yet, actually, as it does go to absolute wet. All right, so that's Yuki through Ricciardo, which will have obviously helped anyone who's not come in yet. Albon's closing on De Vries, who I think is stuck in a train from Magnussen. Wait, are some people not coming in at all? Okay, Magnussen's now come in. That might be because he slightly ruined his tyres because he came off, but that's now obviously freed up the train from Perez. But the Saubers are going to cause a blockage here because they're on intermediate tyres. In wet conditions, Ocon as well, but he's in that train to begin with. I mean, this is helping Alex get caught up. I'm not gonna lie, there's every chance Tsunoda wins this now. And he come off fuel though. I mean, I know it's not a race win, but I'm pretty certain everyone ahead is on intermediates. Oh no, Sainz and Russell are on... Sainz and Russell came in. How have Sainz and Russell come in and still ended up first and fourth? Okay, well, there's every good chance that Tsunoda still ends up third. Okay, Ocon now comes in, and Tsunoda has caught Hulkenberg. Needs to clear him quickly. Okay, that was nice and easy. My worry is, of course, obviously getting caught on one of these drivers. Yeah, so they're slipping now, badly. I mean, this feels good for Albon, but at the same time, it doesn't, because he's not actually made his way through anyone in the process. Okay, so Piastri pits way too late. I think part of the problem is Bottas isn't being cleared quickly enough by people. Piastri still comes out ahead of Alex because of all this. But he comes out 11th. He's lost places, but actually, has he lost places? Tsunoda makes his way through Leclerc as well now. Hamilton now up, 14 seconds behind Sainz and Russell. Hamilton actually pits. Leclerc doesn't. And honestly, there's 3 laps to go. Don't risk it, Yuki. You're not going to go any faster than this. Verstappen is 6 seconds behind with 3 laps. I don't think even Verstappen's capable of that kind of time differential on the same tyre. And he's also got to negotiate Leclerc, which he's done quite quickly, in fairness, but now 7 seconds behind there, thereabouts, with 2 laps to go. I don't think even Verstappen's capable of that, thankfully. So now the problem here is Albon... Ooh, someone's had a yellow. Oh, it's the Sauber, I think. Oh, it's De Vries. It's De Vries at the very, very end. What's he done? That is directly ahead of Alex, actually. Pierre getting as frustrated with De Vries as everyone else. So Pierre didn't actually lose out, sadly. And Albon's up to 15th momentarily, but he'll probably still start 18th, the actual race, so that's annoying. I mean, Leclerc's done well, considering. I wasn't sure if Albon was still stuck on driving cleaner there. I tried every trick in the book to get the tyre temperatures down, just because he seems to be dying around the track all over the place. I don't know what's going on with Alex. He's all over the place, positioning-wise. Like, he doesn't... Well, I genuinely don't know what's going on with him. He's just taking every angle possible. Might as well push the fuel, Yuki. I think we're all in a train trying to get past Hulkenberg, who he's doing remarkably well to hold on, actually. I mean, Alex! I put him on less attacking. What has Alex just done there? Why are we not getting that replay? I mean, you can get Hulkenberg now. Alex, what did he just do? My voice has reached an octave I've never used before there. He just overtook 4 people. Yes, Alex, making progress, he says, as if that wasn't the best move of all time. Well, don't go attack mode, because there's no reason to. Hulkenberg's holding everyone else up, and they're 2.5 seconds behind now. Verstappen got 1.5 seconds in those last 2 laps. But Yuki's are crossing third, as Leclerc holds Hamilton up for good measure. And we're going to get on the back of Hamilton and Leclerc here. I mean, it'd be nice to get another place before the checkered flag, if this could become a bit of a drag race. Unfortunately, I think Albon tucked in behind them there, but I mean, that was witchcraft what he did there, wasn't it? It was a 3-car overtake, which became a 4th car on the next straight. His weird placing and positioning that was going on worked in his favour there dramatically. I didn't even tell him to do that. I don't think there's a button to do that. I mean, Alex 4-car overtakes the highlight there, but Yuki's still third. Witchcraft. Finally, Lance Stroll has a mare of a race. Finally. Even having pitted, he went down 7 places. Esteban Ocon's was even worse. With some people with some solid recoveries there. Lewis Hamilton into 10th, Max Verstappen up to 4th. Oscar Piastri up to 7th as well. And Leclerc, of course, up to 9th, but with a penalty. So Alex must have had a 3-place penalty for some kind of collision in practice. It did affect car parts as far as I'm aware, so down 3 places to 13th because someone's got a worse penalty ahead of him, which must be Leclerc. But of course I can't do sponsorship bonuses because Yuki's starting 3rd. There's no way in hell he finishes there. Looks like a 2-stop would be standard anyway. I mean, we'll do that, but of course... Oh, mind you, there's rain. There's rain. There's light rain in the race. Oh, God, it's one of those ones where it's barely intermediate the entire damn time, isn't it? The question mark is where is the start of this? Because that genuinely could be about there. I need a tyre that's definitely going to make it. But 71 laps, 71 more laps of Sao Paulo. I mean, the sprint already is more interesting than previous races combined.
And now, it's time for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
My hopes for a non-Red Bull winner of this race was somewhat dashed by Max getting up to 4th from the sprint, having started 9th and 10th, the 2 Red Bulls there, as Alex immediately loses the place to Pierre Gasly. Good work. Yuki's also being overtaken by Verstappen, but that one's less surprising. Who might actually be on a soft. I think everyone started on a medium. Oh no, Norris started on a soft and Perez started on a soft. Albon fighting back on Pierre Gasly, but I don't think that will stick. As they sort of just nip off Esteban Ocon behind, it is actually a 2-on-1 really with the Alpines. Yeah, but Albon fighting back here. Tsunoda, don't be surprised with losing positions to Max. I didn't take fuel out. No wonder they're struggling. I could probably be on attacking fuel the entire race then, because you'll just recover naturally in the rain. But the crucial thing for Alex is to still be behind Perez, really, who's going to be the one that's going to charge through the field on the softs. Leclerc did start all the way back. Don't know where he actually started, but 17th is where he is now at the end of lap 1. Crucial for Tsunoda to sort of stay in touch in these early laps as Max makes the charge for the race lead. 48 degrees the track temperature is. I genuinely don't think I've seen it higher in the game. Of course, we come to Sao Paulo in October or November on the calendar, and of course it's the southern hemisphere, so that's like going to Texas in June, really, or May, I suppose, would be the equivalent. Basically, it's bloody warm. 27 degrees the air temperature. To be honest, I don't really know why we go to Brazil this late in the calendar, knowing it's this warm. Normally, the whole point of scheduling races is to try and get them kind of in that hot, but not too hot period of time, which is why a lot of the places they go to where it's boiling in the day, they tend to do night races. You know, Bahrain, Abu Dhabi, Singapore, Saudi. They all tend to be night races for that reason. That's why they come to the UK in the summer, because otherwise it's going to be too cold. Yuki's struggling now. Perez has overtaken Albon. What a surprise. I mean, Tsunoda's making a fight of this with Alonso, but ultimately he will lose out. This is obviously why I couldn't put in incentives, whilst I felt Alex could probably go forward over the course of the race, someone like Hülkenberg in 11th, for instance. Piastri in 9th, still likely to end up behind Alex by the end of this race, provided, of course, they survive it. But Alex has to let Perez get Hülkenberg first, I think, here. And then he can make his own move on Hülkenberg. And hopefully follow Perez through a bit. Of course, there's every chance that Perez pulls away from Hülkenberg here and leaves Alex behind as a result as well. Obviously going hard on fuel at the beginning, but we will get that back during the rain. I mean, that's not how you overtake Alex, is it? That's better. And probably the better place to do it as well, because it doesn't give him a chance to fight back. Long term, I mean, we are melting these tyres, right? Everyone else is about the same. Leclerc's already up to 14th, past the Alpines and Magnussen. Now on to Hülkenberg for him, but we are providing Hülkenberg with a bit of a tow, which is going to probably halt Leclerc a little bit long term. In a bit of clear air, the tyres are coming down a bit, Alex's. Yuki's still... I mean, the tyre temperatures here are absolutely insane. This is with curbs on. Oh, Norris has dropped off, as has Hülkenberg and Leclerc, but obviously Leclerc's through now. Just realised I took the wrong person down a notch there. Actually, do what I tell you, please, game. Thank you. That's always helpful. So Stroll is holding people up. It's only an engine problem for him. And the engine's not even that bad. Intriguing to know why he's having an issue. I wonder if it's a car part issue. Did he have a moment at any point this weekend and he just doesn't have a replacement and everything seems to be functioning? But it is very much a trainer that he's created. Hülkenberg dropped to 15th, bless him. I'm trying everything to get these tyre temperatures down. It's impossible. Because I need these tyres to get there if the rain's slower than anticipated. Although, to be fair, as soon as the track gets a bit damp, it might sort that problem out by itself as Zhou Guan Yu overtakes Tsunoda because the tyres are too hot and I can't do anything about it. Oh, they're finally just tipping in. Okay, so they're not too hot then. Alex is just about capable of holding onto this train. Interesting that Norris isn't able to keep up in the race. He's just on the outside of a DRS without ever getting it, as Leclerc has got past Albon. I think fuel-wise will be okay. You say the rain should help temperatures because it'll bring the track temperature down in theory. This is with curbs on, by the way. Might as well watch one of these overtakes at last. As Tsunoda and Zhou Guanyu continually go at it, Perez is all the way through the field behind them, having started 12th, I think. Ocon's taken Albon at some point. I didn't notice when, but Albon seems to be really struggling just to keep up with anything that resembles pace here. Oh, there's a yellow flag. No one seems to have lost a dramatic amount of places. Piastri's down to 13th. I wonder if Piastri's cooked his tyres because his... No, he hasn't. Okay, so we're at 0.61. I think I was right to be a little bit wary with these tyres, actually, because they are barely holding on. Anyone on a soft has actually had a mare here because Perez and Norris are now going to... Oh, that's why Norris is struggling to keep up because he's on soft tyres. Perez has come in now, which is obviously way too early, but he had no option. He had to. I think he did this last year. It's what caught us out because we thought, oh, he might be doing all right here. Sainz has come in really early. Norris still hasn't even pitted. He's on softs. As Albon gets Piastri. There's I presume Gasly because Albon got past us already. Good move though. Finally, something positive from Albon. How far ahead is Gasly from Albon? Just 2 seconds. I mean, crucially, we've got 9 seconds between our two drivers. We can't pit them on the same lap, which I think is going to be next lap because it's still 0.7 and it's not really going up that quickly. I think we're definitely okay to come off curbs now anyway. Or more to the point, go back onto curves. I'm going to ignore my pit stop for now. Leclerc's made his way to Tsunoda, actually. I now realise. We've fallen off Zhou Guanyu at some point. Is it this lap? Is this the lap? A lot of rivals are coming. We can actually react to Zhou Guanyu, realistically. I feel like it's going to be 0.8 by the time we get there. But I still don't think it's wet enough. I mean, who's on an intermediate and who's been on an intermediate for a while? Perez has been on an intermediate for a while, of course. But he's also in a Red Bull. But we still have Verstappen for comparison there. So he is 1.4 seconds slower than Verstappen on an intermediate versus a medium, a worn medium at that. Still lapping the same as Zhou Guanyu because he's in a Red Bull. I think De Vries and Sainz have been on for a lap, as has Hulkenberg. They haven't crossed the line yet. So it's 0.8 now. Alonso's come in. Verstappen hasn't. Actually, Alonso's in the pits. He's the only one coming in at the moment because that's the Williams garage there, I believe. No, that can't be the Williams garage. That's the Mercedes there. So is this one of those garages where it's... No, that's Alpine's. That's the Williams garage directly behind them at the very end, I think. So we're the ones next in line, I think. Doesn't look like Zhou Guanyu is coming in. Max has done a 1:13.7. Okay. We literally have one more lap in us. Stroll and Ocon are coming in as well. I'm going to bring them in at the end of this lap, having gone all out. Because we used to think the crossover was about 0.8, but now I think it's more about 0.85, based on kind of recent results where we came in at 0.8 when it was like this, going very, very slowly up. And we seem to lose out a little bit. So Sainz did a 1:16 that lap as well, which is the same as Tsunoda, but he's in a Ferrari. So the intermediates were definitely slower last lap. Albon did 1:15.8 and Sainz did a 1:16.3, and he's in a faster car. So Piastri did a 1:19. De Vries did a 1:15.8 admittedly, which we were watching Alonso there for some reason. But both our drivers come in now. I wonder if actually the double stack will cause a little bit of a problem for other drivers being released. Because Albon's going to maybe prevent someone like Gasly from coming out of their pit box when they want to. Like, he may have just held up Gasly a little bit for... Oh, Tsunoda's got out ahead of Leclerc. I think Leclerc overtook us before we did the pit stops. And Albon's ahead of Gasly, which is correct. So Tsunoda's behind Perez still, but he was anyway. And ahead of Hamilton, but I think he was anyway. But he was fighting Leclerc, so he's got Leclerc in the pit stops. Norris has lost out dramatically there. He was about 3 seconds behind Zhou Guanyu, and now he's still 3 seconds behind Zhou Guanyu, so it's not really made much difference because they pitted the same lap, of course, that's why. But Perez had pretty much just caught up or just got through by the time he came in anyway, so that's just the Red Bull pace. And Stroll was literally just behind Tsunoda, so I think he has lost out to Stroll. But we effectively have the freshest intermediates. It's also that point of the year where we don't go aggressive on the engine and we just let the tyres go at 3 push, which is still too hot apparently. So Yuki is obviously fighting with faster vehicles right now, which is Leclerc at the moment and then eventually Hamilton. This might be a bit of a dull race from this point onwards, unless an incident happens. I'll say it's already reverted to type at the back. We might as well watch Tsunoda be overtaken because we're not getting any other highlight. And of course in the rain, there's no DRS, so overtakes happen elsewhere, crucially. I mean, Yuki's still holding on to a point here, which is realistically all we're hoping for here because Zhou Guanyu's doing a madness still. I expect he will get taken by Stroll, Perez, Leclerc, maybe Hamilton by the end, but De Vries is faster than Albon. I'm not watching that one because that's depressing. Ocon's now on Tsunoda. We're not getting a point. So it could actually be dry in the last couple of laps again. I've checked and doing a second... Why is he saying Tsunoda? Oh, it's because I actually flipped over his pit stops onto the test for having 2 intermediates. Now, it's actually dry now, which is going to be a problem. Actually, that's going to be a problem. It's intermediates again, but... So, crucially, we lose a point here as Ocon gets through Tsunoda, as DRS is activated, of course, because of it drying out a bit. I think if it stayed damp, Tsunoda had enough. But unfortunately, the good news, of course, is DRS keeping Tsunoda back in it because we're having to be like super conservative here. Because we want these to last, effectively, because it's going to get damp again, and we want these to last. So Tsunoda's staying with Ocon. Our fuel's back as well, crucially. In fact, he's got it back again. I wasn't expecting him to overtake, that's why I wasn't watching it. But DRS, okay. Hamilton's not making as much progress as I thought he would. I think when it comes to Albon, he's 15th, so we might as well just try with him. Well, that's the point. If we think it might be dry enough for dries at the very, 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 very end, last few laps, maybe we don't actually need to go conservative here, especially as the track goes back to damp, annoyingly when Tsunoda's behind again. I think we get aggressive when the track starts to come down again. It's actually Tsunoda's having to go here. All I'm doing is pushing fuel. But De Vries weirdly has the pace to go caught up to the back of our little pair. Zhou Guanyu has fallen to 8th, as I suspected. Those drivers did get through him. But Hamilton's not really made any inroads. But this is all about just making sure these intermediates got as far as they can. But it might dry up at the end enough to go softs for our last few laps. I mean, this is a nice little fight. Tsunoda's not really doing that well, though. Would that only count as an overtake for Ocon on Tsunoda, rather than the other way around first, which it was. So no more rain now. Track's obviously still fairly warm, so it should dry up from this point onwards. It's only 1.34 now, really, and we've still got, what, 50% tyres? As soon as I start seeing that rain go down, that water level go down, I might go more aggressive on the tyres. I'm already pushing the fuel just to try and get something that resembles speed out of this car. My concern, of course, particularly with Tsunoda, is crashing. Tsunoda having another go. We'll save a bit of fuel for a bit of a push at the end. Where is the leader? Oh, directly behind Albon. Albon's got the risk of being lapped here. Okay, so that water level is now officially going down. Screw it, I'm going to go for it. Okay, so rain's officially stopped and it is now officially drying out. Stroll's come in now. Interesting. It's not a super aggressive downturn. He's only 800 meters away. It's down 0.1. I think Tsunoda next lap. Alex is obviously a little bit behind. So only Stroll... Oh, that looks like Ocon's gone for it. So Stroll did. Perez, Leclerc, Zhou Guanyu, Hamilton didn't. Oh, Ocon didn't either. He just took an odd line. I think for Albon, though, he's a little bit further back and he might just benefit from this. By the time he's actually out and back round on a full lap, prevents him from being lapped by Verstappen. He doesn't need to lose time doing that as well. Although he might just come out in a position to be lapped by... Hopefully he comes out behind Alonso, which he has. So he also loses that problem. Yeah, so it's officially changed to dry now. So I think this works out for Alex in exactly the way that we hoped. Russell's had a pit stop issue, but that doesn't affect us. So Alex on Piastri is gaining a bit. We'll now pay attention to Tsunoda. They've all come in at the same time, which is a bit of a problem. But status quo is kind of what we needed for Tsunoda, who has got Ocon in the pits, crucially, and comes back out in the wake of Hamilton? No, that's a back marker. Albon has come out directly behind Norris and Gasly. He has gained time, which is what we needed. He hasn't got an undercut, and this is a back marker that Tsunoda has to negotiate, but he's crucially also 1.6 seconds ahead of Ocon. So Ricciardo gets out of the way quite nicely, in fact. I appreciate that, Ricciardo. Just to give DRS to Ocon in the process, that would be great. Leclerc and Zhou Guanyu are pitting now, but I think they had like a huge amount of time. Okay, they're sort of 13 seconds ahead of Hamilton, so I don't think they're in any risk of going backwards in these pit stops, although they are on intermediates in full dry conditions. But they have got going. Yeah, still 13 seconds ahead of Hamilton then. Albon, if you could just get a place, that would be great. As Russell, who did have a pit stop issue, still third. It seems to be Norris that's struggling here. So if Gasly can get Norris... Oh, God. Ocon got Tsunoda. We started third. Zhou Guanyu is unbelievable. Zhou's car must be significantly better than De Vries's. I think they may just be sort of giving those pieces to De Vries because he's kicked up a notch. He's kicked up a notch this particular weekend. All right, so Verstappen started the final lap. He has obviously pitted himself and Albon has unlapped himself as a result. So we're not on the last lap yet. Tsunoda's ahead. In a weird way, it's actually a good thing for Ocon to get Tsunoda quite early here because it's a separate detection point for the second overtake zone. So Max wins the race. Tsunoda gets Ocon back here on the last lap. Albon, the last person not to be lapped, of course. So this is a crucial P10 overtake. So it's a nice, lovely little point. Prevents LP from getting one, of course, as well. Need to make sure that fuel doesn't tip under. Same with Yuki, of course. Oh, there's quite a long way to the check. Oh, no, I think the checker flag is a lie where the line is, but I think Ocon might power past before the line. No, Yuki holds on. Unfortunately, that's the same problem for Gasly and Albon behind. Albon didn't quite have enough. Annoyingly, I think I put two drivers top 14 as the race incentive. So, of course, Albon finishes 15th because, once again, the game decides to screw you over.
He sealed this year's driver's title.
Only
There
a
you go.
handful of drivers can say that they've won 3 titles.
4 titles, Karoon. 4 titles. So a slightly bizarrely awful race for Lando Norris, who never really seemed up to speed. Maybe there's a car issue there, a fundamental mechanical issue that I never checked into. Piastri's obviously just terrible in the race anyway, so that's what that is. But yeah, Lando had a terrible race. Maybe they picked up at the wrong time as well. Maybe that's a factor, I don't really know. But he just didn't seem to have the pace. He didn't seem to be able to keep up in the early stages either. So I think maybe there might be a fundamental car issue there. Nick de Vries similarly has gone forwards. Shogundi's held on to 8th, meanwhile we've gone from 3rd to 10th. I don't think we really had a bad time of things in terms of pit stops. I think we got them at the right moments for Yuki. But yeah, top 8, still the top 8. Lewis is 9th for whatever reason, but I didn't really check his car because he seemed to be mildly off it as well. But Sergio Perez was the victim of terrible pit stop timing, actually, on both cases. I think he went too long at the end and went too early at the start. McLaren gets 6 points over the course of the weekend. Williams get 5 points over the course of the weekend, but crucially, we get 7. 6 from the sprint, 1 from the race. In the mix here for pit stops, under 1.9 actually. I think we're going to end up with 2nd here. Red Bull have run away with it in the end, but yeah, Albon just not at it this weekend for whatever reason. I think we actually got more sponsorship bonuses than I thought I did, because that didn't seem to be quite a detrimental loss. Oh god, Alex's car failed a bunch of aerodynamic things. I wonder if that's part of the problem. So it's Las Vegas in 4 days in game. There's no rest for the wicked here at all. But the good news is we do get 2nd underfloor as of today, I think. As of that race weekend, you just can put it on. And we get the 2nd chassis, so Yuki can have one as well for Las Vegas. And there's 3 races to go, just Las Vegas, Qatar and Abu Dhabi, which obviously is in November as well. So we also get scouting on other sporting directions. In case we want to make an alteration, we'll make that contract before Abu Dhabi, by the way. We won't do it afterwards just to risk that. But, you know, Marco is running out of contract, but it's just a case of I don't want to pay him next year's contract now. I'm going to wait as long as possible and just make sure I can make a considered decision on that front, because in terms of aptitude and processes, which have got up to 95 actually, see in the background there, in terms of aptitude and processes, he's one of the best. So before we've even started pushing those things. Also, in regards to Liam Lawson, I'm pretty certain the recent patch said they fixed the signing a reserve driver for next year problem, which kind of soft locked people at the New Year's change. Curiously, the 1.8 upcoming patch notes, basically the things that they're saying that will be in 1.8, also mentioned that problem, which makes me think they didn't quite solve it last time. So I was right to be hesitant on sort of doing that in advance. So Liam Lawson, we will aim to replace with Zay Maloney after UAE. I'll then probably put Liam Lawson as the Red Bull reserve driver if they don't pick him up anyway, because he will be a free agent before the end of the season, so that he will be available to pick up. So that's it from Brazil. The race was a little bit standard, but of course the rain does mix things up a little bit, so at least strategy came into play. But the sprint was fun, wasn't it? Remember that? Remember that from the middle of the video. I mean, I suppose it was still a photo finish for 10th and a point there, which held off Alpine. Every point counts in the long run, I suppose. So, but if you enjoyed that, like, comment, subscribe. You know the deal by now. Until next time, thank you for watching. Ciao.